Welcome to today's video. Over the past few days, chess fans around the world have been following the highly anticipated Chessable Masters 2025. This prestigious event marks the opening of the Champions Chess Tour 2025, featuring a total prize pool worth millions of dollars. In the winners' bracket final, we have a thrilling showdown between two longtime rivals, Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. The match consists of 4 rapid games. In Game 1, Magnus capitalized on the advantage of playing with the white pieces, securing the first win of the match. Hikaru fought hard in Game 2, but despite his best efforts, he could only manage a draw. Now, heading into Game 3, the question remains, can Nakamura mount a comeback? Heading into this decisive battle with the white pieces, Magnus confidently begins with 1, e4. Hikaru responds with 1, e5, and white develops the knight to f3, attacking the central pawn. Black mirrors with 2, nc6, reinforcing the center and contesting control over this strategically crucial area. White then plays 3, bb5, entering the Ruy Lopez opening, aiming to put early pressure on black. In response, Hikaru chooses 3, ng7, a flexible sideline. Magnus continues natural development with 4, nc3, while Hikaru places his knight on 4, ng6, preparing to free his f8 bishop for development. Magnus immediately strikes in the center with 5, d4, seizing space. Hikaru meets this challenge with 5, xd4, and Magnus recaptures with 6, nxd4. Black actively changes the knight to d4 with nxd4, forcing white to retake with d4. Hikaru plays 7, c6, pushing white's bishop back, b2. At this moment, Magnus is exerting pressure on black's position, particularly on g7, which temporarily hinders Hikaru's ability to develop his kingside bishop and castle safely. Black plays qb6, offering a queen trade to free up space for kingside development. White retreating qd3, keeping the queen centralized and avoiding early exchanges. Black continues with b7, preparing to castle. Sensing an opportunity to expand on the queen side, white pushes 10. a4, threatening to advance to a5, Hikaru immediately reacts with a5, stopping white's expansion. With the position stabilizing, Magnus castles, ensuring the safety of his king. Hikaru castles, bringing both kings to safety and setting the stage for the middle game battle. Magnus develops with b3, directly attacking the black queen. A tempting but disastrous idea for black would be capturing the pawn on b2, qxb2, as white could respond with rb1, trapping the queen. Recognizing this, Hikaru wisely plays bc8, shielding his queen. Magnus immediately bxc5, and black recaptures with qxc5. White seizes control of the open central file with rad1, increasing the pressure on black's position. Hikaru responds with e5, attacking the queen. However, a stronger alternative here for black would have been nf4, executing a fork to threaten both white's queen and bishop. White retreats the queen to d6, forcing black to trade queens while also blocking the advance of the d7 pawn. Black captures with qxd6, and white recaptures with rxd6. Black plays f6, creating a square for the knight to retreat to f7, aiming to drive away white's rook and free the d-pawn, allowing the c8 bishop to enter the game. Magnus immediately seizes the initiative with f4 attacking knight. Black moves the knight to f7, but white responds with 8 bc4, executing a powerful pin that freezes the knight and prevents it from moving. Black plays kh8, breaking the pin. Magnus moves rook rd4, stepping away from the knight's potential counterplay while maintaining control over the central files. Black advances b6. White immediately strikes in the center, e5, launching a dynamic breakthrough. If black captures with fxe5, white would recapture with fxe5, opening the f-file for the rook and bishop to coordinate an attack on the knight. In such a scenario, black would inevitably lose the knight. Even if black stubbornly tries to defend with kg8, white would simply shift the rook rf4, adding more pressure, making the knight's position untenable. To avoid this, Hikaru plays n8, repositioning the knight to a more active post. Magnus continues building his attack with ne4, reinforcing his control over the center and increasing pressure. Black jumps in with nf5, attacking white's rook while also reinforcing the d6 square. Magnus calmly retreats his rook rd3, maintaining flexibility. Hikaru seizes the momentum and pushes d5, attacking both white's bishop and knight, while also sacrificing a pawn to free his c8 bishop. Magnus captures with xd6. In response, Hikaru finally develops his bishop with bd7, blocking white's passed pawn. Sensing an opportunity, Magnus plays re1, planning to use the open e-file to infiltrate black's position. However, Hikaru immediately contests this with re8. Magnus improves his king's position with kf2, preparing for endgame transitions. Hikaru, not wanting to sit back, strikes with e5, aiming for an aggressive pawn break to open the f-file for his rooks to pressure white's king. In this position, white has a strong alternative with g4, driving away black's knight. If black retreats nh4, white can immediately follow up with f5, trapping the knight on the edge of the board. From there, white can slowly build up an attack. If black instead plays nh6, coordinating with the bishop to attack g4, white can respond with h3, reinforcing the pawn structure. Should black capture with xg4, white can boldly sacrifice the knight. Black captured the rook on e1, white captured the bishop on d7 with the knight. Black attempt to consolidate with re8, linking the rooks, white nxb6, clearing the path for the passed d-pawn to advance, securing a decisive advantage. In the scenario where white plays nx fix plus, and black chooses to take the knight with rx fix instead of capturing on e1, white can then exchange rooks with rxe8 plus, forcing rxe8 followed by d7, threatening promotion. This would compel black to sacrifice the bishop, and after bxd7, white holds a winning position. If black tries to defend with rf8, avoiding white's potential g5 fork, white can shift the rook rb7, methodically picking off black's queenside pawns. In this endgame, white's advantage is clear, and black's position becomes extremely difficult to hold. Returning to the actual game, Magnus instead played rb3, targeting the b6 pawn. However, this turned out to be a mistake, as it gave black a crucial counterplay opportunity. Without hesitation, Hikaru struck with fxg4, breaking open white's king-side defenses. Magnus proceeded with rxb6, but black immediately launched a counterattack with ne3 attack bishop. Magnus retreated the bishop to bd3, reinforcing the c2 pawn, but Hikaru continued his assault with eng4+, forcing a disruption in white's coordination. Magnus played kf3, attacking black's g4 pawn, but Hikaru responded with pawn f5, striking at white's knight. Surprisingly, Magnus chose an audacious approach, sacrificing the rook and moving the knight to nc5 instead of defending it. Sensing an opportunity, Hikaru wasted no time and captured the rook with rxe1. However, Magnus instantly retaliated with nxd7, attacking black's rook. Hikaru repositioned his rook with rd, counterattacking white's knight. Magnus played rb8, daring black into a rook exchange, clearing the way for his passed pawn to advance. If black hastily exchanges rooks on b8, white would recapture with the knight, clearing the way for the passed pawn to advance. If black then checks with the knight on e5, white would calmly step up with the king to f4, attacking the knight. If black retreats the knight to f1, trying to guard the promotion square, white captured c6. Black eliminate white's dangerous passed pawn by capturing on d6. White captured the pawn with nx8. At this point, white would gain a dominant position, controlling the queen side with 3 connected passed pawns, while also having an active bishop ready to support them. Recognizing this danger, black chose to reinforce the position by retreating the rook to 8, linking the rooks and strengthening the defense along the 8th rank. White exchanged rooks on d8, and black recaptured, simultaneously attacking the knight and the d6 pawn. White responded with b5, both defending the knight and attacking black's knight. Black repositioned the knight to h6, counterattacking white's bishop, expecting white to retreat. However, white boldly played kxg4. If black mistakenly plays bxf5, thinking it's a good move, white would simply recapture. If black then takes the knight on d7, white would immediately push the king up to e6, attacking and escorting the d6 pawn toward promotion. Even if black tries to retreat and defend, they would eventually be forced to sacrifice a rook and pawns to stop white's promotion. At that point, with a decisive material advantage, converting the position into a win for white would be a straightforward task. Returning to the actual game, despite spotting the tempting knight for bishop trade, Hikaru Nakamura chose not to play recklessly. Instead, he retreated the knight to f7. Unable to defend the pawn, white repositioned the knight to e5, allowing black to quickly capture on d6. White responded by taking on c6, attacking the rook. Black moved the rook to f8, creating a pin in coordination with the knight to pressure the f5 bishop. Seeing the potential danger, White retreated the knight to d4 to protect the bishop. Black played kg8, aiming for king activity in the endgame, while White advanced b3. Black continued with kf7. Without hesitation, White struck with bxh7, winning a pawn. Black immediately countered with rh8, attacking the bishop and the h2 pawn. White played ke5, counterattacking Black's knight. Black retreated the knight to b7, and White repositioned the bishop to e4, continuing to hunt the knight. Finding no immediate solution, Black checked with re8, forcing kf4. Black the knight on c5, coordinating with the rook to pressure the bishop. White withdrew the bishop to f3 feet, and Black struck with rd, attacking White's knight. White responded with k3, defending everything, but Black repeated with re8+, forcing kd2. Once again, Black returned to rd, pinning the knight. However, White had anticipated this, calmly playing kc3, breaking the pin while defending the knight. Black, looking for counterplay, played rc8, aiming for a potential discovered check. White, not allowing this, jumped the knight to c, shutting down the c-file. Seeing no immediate breakthroughs, Black advanced the king to f6. White, seizing the momentum, pushed kc4, attacking the knight. Black retreated the knight to b7, defending the pawn, but White pressed forward with kb5, closing in on the a5 pawn while preparing to push the c-pawn forward. The position is becoming increasingly difficult for Black, as White's king and pawns are extremely active, ready to take control of the endgame. Black played rg8, quietly preparing a hidden tactical idea. Instinctively, White captured the pawn on a5. Without hesitation, Black delivered a check with rg5+. White moved the king to b6, but Black immediately recaptured the knight on a5. At this point, despite more than one rook, Hikaru was at a severe disadvantage. As Magnus had a dominant position with 5 extra pawns and bishop, it was only a matter of time before Nakamura was forced to resign. A few moves later, Hikaru had to admit defeat. With that, the winner's bracket final concluded with a dominant 2.5 victory for Magnus Carlsen. This result sent Hikaru Nakamura down to the loser's bracket final, where he will face Ian Nepomniachtchi. The winner of that match will earn a rematch against Magnus in the grand final. Will Hikaru Nakamura earn a rematch against Magnus in the grand final? Or will Nepomniachtchi eliminate him and take on Magnus himself? Stay tuned for the next video to find out.